what's going on? Los Angeles, welcome in to the Rams Skinny, the Rams LAFB show here on the LAFB network. Happy Friday, all you beautiful people. We have football tomorrow. Battle for LA. I don't even know if that's like a thing anymore. That was like back in 2016, 2017 when both teams moved here. There was that kind of slogan. Not sure if it's necessarily true, but we get to say it because it's a battle on this network. Rams against Chargers at SoFi Stadium. Preseason game, but should still be fun. A lot of storylines to get into, which we're going to talk about, and obviously excited to break down kind of what this game looks like, what to expect from the Rams, who will play from what we've heard and what we expect, who they can expect to play against in terms of Chargers players. So a lot of stuff to get into, a lot of fun, and always happy to have you with us. Most happy to have with me my co-host here with locks look a little shorter today. I know you didn't just get a haircut, but they look a little shorter, not as long. Did you do anything different?
Well, a few days ago, my barber actually flipped the side of my head in which the part is on. So don't adjust your cameras if you're expecting the hair to be a certain way, you know. And I don't like it. I don't like that she just decided to flip the sides. But I'm just gonna roll with it, and I'm gonna go with it for a month, and then tell her to fix it.
I mean, it looks great. It looks great, but she went rogue, huh? Just totally went rogue on you. No heads up.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't think they had such freedom.
Who would have thought? Did you tip her?
Yeah.
Good man.
She's really nice.
Yeah, worth it. You don't want to piss off your barber. That's a bad person to probably piss off. My daughter does my hair now, so I really don't want to piss her off. But luckily, mine's pretty easy. It's just you can't really change anything.
Yours is probably a little cheaper than mine too.
It is cheap. Yeah, did it this morning, so it takes a little longer, a little messy. I got nicked a couple times in the back of my head as she was with the razor trying to do things. But anyway,
4 years old.
4 years old.
Nice. Got her trained early. Wow.
You know, getting those ambitions high for. Hey, barber's a great job, though. I mean,
it's always going to be needed.
Yeah, exactly. Those are kind of the things nowadays, especially since we're in this industry, which I love so much and I wouldn't trade it, but just seeing the volatility of this industry and how hard it is to like make any real money. Like you want your kids to like pick something that's just always going to be needed, that like no matter what is going on in the world, like is a need point. Obviously, if you don't love it, don't do it. But if you can find something that you love that is a necessity, that's what you should go into.
Yeah, definitely. And this is not a necessity.
No. We think it is. All you guys listening, hopefully it is a necessity to get you through your day. Not that your day is bad, but hopefully this just helps.
Send a shout out to all of our lovely listeners. You guys have been showing up for us every week, twice a week. You know, our listenership is really fantastic. You know, it's, and the growth is still happening. So appreciate you guys. Keep telling your friends, keep showing up for us, and we'll keep working hard for you.
Yeah, tell your friends, tell 10 more friends. So we will obviously all season long, 2 episodes every week. We're going to do a live show every week as well. Plus, we're going to start doing a little more short form stuff on the channel, short form video. Kind of, we have all of our article content, digital, written content on LAFBnetwork.com. We're going to kind of transform that into more video content for the channel. So hopefully, if you don't like reading and you don't want to just go to LAFB Network to read, we can hopefully just give you more news, information, rumors in video format. Like a lot of great other YouTubers do, but hopefully you'll enjoy that. So it's not just, 2 shows a week. We're going to have hopefully something every day up on the channel that involves your Rams. So if you have anything that you want to see, please drop it in the comments below. You can hit us up on Twitter at RL Anderson, LAFB is Skinny T, at Ryan Dart, LAFB is myself. Always love the input. Some of you guys probably have phenomenal ideas that we just haven't heard or haven't thought of. So we'd love to hear those. If like, hey, we want to a weekly 3-minute segment on this or injury reports or whatever in video format, we would love to hear that. So, and just if you hate us or hate what we're doing, you can drop that too. So who knows if we'll change it, but we'll read it.
I can't change much about myself. So if you're not liking it,
apparently your barber tried,
she tried to change it up
without even telling you. So, show is always brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. Head to betonline.ag today. Football is here. Again, we're not here recommending what to bet. We're not giving betting advice, and I certainly would not recommend betting on preseason, but you can do all of it at betonline.ag. Win some money, hopefully take some home. The one thing we are saying, Matthew Stafford MVP. We like the odds there. Rams win total over under 8.5. We like the over there. That's where the advice stops. But betonline.ag. Tell them the guys over at the Rams LAFB sent you. All right, baby. Live football, kind of a weird time, 4:05 Pacific time tomorrow at SoFi. It's a Saturday game, so that's kind of like, it's not on the usual 10 a.m. or 1 p.m. Schedule like it is on Sundays. So a 4:05 kickoff. A lot of fun storylines, Skinny T. Obviously, we won't see any starters again. But first, before we get in the game, new addition to the Ramley. Rams did add a new player on the defensive side of the ball this time. Carlos Watkins, 6'3", 305, big boy, formerly with the Dallas Cowboys, drafted by the Houston Texans out of Clemson in 2017. No real injuries on the defensive line. So what does that tell you, Skinny T? First, what do you think of this addition? But what does that actually mean, kind of the way this coaching staff is kind of thinking of that defensive line room?
Yeah, this is something that we've been asking for since Aaron Donald's retirement, maybe even before that. Some additions of experience and size on the defensive line. You look at a guy like Braden Fisk. You look at who else is starting over there? I just totally blanked on it.
Laurel Murchison,
Kobie Turner as well. Under 300 pounds. So this is adding that heft that we want to see, but it's also adding experience. You're looking at those starters. Braden Fisk is a rookie. Kobie Turner, second season. Bobby Brown hasn't played a ton. So yeah, it's experience and size. And, in terms of what it means for some of those guys, I think that, we've seen them add bodies to rooms that have had injuries, like you were saying. This is not one of those. So this is definitely a play towards, they've noticed that they're lacking in this spot. So, is he a game changer? Is he a needle mover? Is he any of those kind of big change? He's not a superstar. He's not a Pro Bowler. He's not All Pro, but he's a solid guy with tons of experience. So I like it.
Yeah. I mean, here's a guy last year, obviously, which is probably why he was a free agent. Not a ton of production, only around 40 snaps last year, 4 tackles, I think. 22, though, did have roughly 180 snaps, so much more involved with the defense in 2022. And, I think at minimum, Skinny, this is something that can potentially light a fire under some guys that maybe they haven't seen from. I mean, we've been talking about Bobby Brown, it feels like, since the day he was drafted, but certainly since the day Aaron Donald retired, as like, is Bobby Brown's moment to shine, to step up. And, if we're being just blunt, I don't know if he's totally seized that opportunity yet, whether it was effort, whether it's work ethic, or whether it's just maybe not fitting into his role quite seamlessly. I mean, there could be a number of options. Don't want to totally say it's a work ethic thing, but seems like for a guy that was kind of given the keys to take over the middle of that line, even though he played more as a D tackle and maybe doesn't fit truly as a nose or whatnot, certainly has the opportunity to do that and just hasn't done that. Maybe this signing will kind of light that fire of like, oh, this isn't just my job. Like, there's going to still be a competition. I have this young rookie in Braden Fisk who's hungry, working at it. I have these other vets like Laurel Murchison, who was re-signed, that is hungry and wants to be here. Now that it's brought in this other guy who didn't play much last year, but has a lot of starts, comes from the pedigree of Clemson as a 4th-round draft pick, and maybe he wants to push me. So I think at the very minimum, it'll push guys like Bobby Brown, not just him, others too, but push guys specifically like Bobby Brown to like, hey, this is not your job. We are giving it to whoever plays the best and earns it. It's not just yours because you're in your 4th year and you have potentially the most talent and size on this spot, but we need the best player, the one that's going to work and be the hungriest to do it. So maybe that's a little residual factor from this signing.
Yeah, no, it's so true, because you look at that interview that our guy Nico did with him out at Rams training camp, and some of his answers, Bobby Brown's answers about his role on the team and where he sees himself this season. He said something like, I want to prove that I'm one of the best defensive tackles in the league, and that I can get into the backfield and I'm a problem for offenses, I think is how he put it. He's never shown necessarily to be any of those things. And also he stated that he had learned more from guys like Aaron Donald and Ashawn Robinson, who play kind of on the, the 3 techniques and that place, rather than, it seems, where he should be is nose tackle. So we were looking at Carlos's snap counts before this, and he's not a nose. So that means that is where Bobby Brown is going to be playing most of the time, probably, with Kobie Turner maybe moving inside and outside and flipping around in there. But yeah, all good things. It's all, if this is what pushes Bobby Brown to meet his highest potential, that's totally worth it for this signing.
Yeah, slam dunk. Yeah. If you want to see that full interview, it's up at LAFBnetwork.com. Have the full transcript there of that interview, with exclusive interview with Bobby Brown. And yeah, just putting a bow on that. The thing that I took out of that the most, that interview, was it was a one-line answer, which a lot of his were very, very short answers. It's after training camp. He's trying to just get through these, which I get, respect. But basically I just need the opportunity, was the quote. Just need the opportunity. We don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but this feels like he has every opportunity available to be the guy. Like, this offseason, this season is his opportunity to prove that. Before, I get it. You're behind Aaron Donald. You're behind some other big name guys and guys that have proven themselves. And as you mentioned, he says in the interviews, he was more as a D tackle in the early years than he was the nose. So he wasn't beating out Greg Gaines or whatnot like that. He was trying to go up and compete with Aaron Donald and Ajon Robinson and Brock. Well, did Brockers leave before he was drafted, or was he a rookie? Maybe somewhere in that time frame. Well, now there's nobody, right? Kobie Turner's definitely your starting D tackle. Outside of him, the defensive line is a blank canvas, essentially.
Yeah.
So he has his opportunity. Now it's a matter of if he's going to go get it, if Carlos Watkins is going to take it, or if that's going to be the push he needs to go and seize it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really say it much better than that. I mean, you think about Kobie Turner can move inside and out. He played a lot of nose last year. Braden Fisk is not going to – he's going to be, more of a defensive end, tackle than a nose tackle for sure. So, I mean, he better get used to learning from those interior guys more than the guys that are further out than that.
And he's getting
not to harp on Bobby Brown any more than he needs, but I mean, we've said all those words about Bobby Brown already.
Yeah, and I know I said put a bow, but last thing, because you hear all the praise, Tyler Davis is getting a lot of praise from this coaching staff, rookie,
certainly,
of the intensity, the intangibles, the work ethic he brings, just being in the right place at the right time. So I mean, he alone is pushing Brown, and we'll see in this game, which now that's a good transition into the preview with the Chargers. I'm sure we'll see a lot of Tyler Davis, and he's been exciting. He's become kind of one of those camp darlings a little bit, and you got to see him a little more firsthand when you were there. But it seems like he's even taken off more in the last week to 10 days, maybe even more so than the beginning of camp. But a guy that the coaching staff seems extremely excited about, and so he's maybe that guy that seizes this opportunity of having this blank canvas, and it's I don't care if I was late draft pick, undrafted, free agent, whoever, I'm going to go take this job and not look back. And it certainly seems like he's doing that. What is your thoughts on Tyler Davis?
Yeah, no, you're really right that he's really come on over the last few weeks, I would say. Started off a bit quiet, but that can be seen as a good thing, where he's studying, he's learning, he's putting in the time and the reps and learning all the fundamentals and learning the defense. And, now that he's got that kind of downloaded, it seems like he's ready to move into a bigger role on the team. Again, the 6th rounder.
Clemson, another Clemson.
Yeah, there we go. I think, he's ready. He's going to play a lot in this game, which means he's not in that starter kind of idea, but this is a guy you can see moving into the rotation very quickly, depending on how things with Laurel Murchison work out, and Desjuan Johnson, how it works out with him as well. Laurel Murchison in particular did not play specifically terribly well in that first game, where every other pass rusher and defensive lineman was kind of eaten against the Dallas Cowboys. And he didn't really kind of make that impact that you'd want to see out of this guy that's been around for 2 years now. So, it's the defensive line rotation specifically. I think we're pretty much set on who the 2-3 starters are going to be up front, but the rotation, which is what McVay and Shula really want to see, is a strong rotation, because certain skill sets are better on certain downs, and you see that across the league. I mean, there's not really a 3-down, nose tackle anymore.
Yeah. The days of Ndamukong Suh are over.
Yeah. Unless you are Ndamukong Suh, which you don't see that anymore. So, yeah, it's the thing about the preseason just gets me so jacked for the regular season, just to see what this really looks like. Yeah. And I'm, coming out of that first week, I was so excited about this defense, just because so many guys were playing with their hair on fire from depth, and that's incredible. And we already know that Jared Verse is going to play like that, and Braden Fisk is going to play like that, and we saw what Byron Young could look like, and Kobie Turner. And so it's, if these guys are just pushing each other, like we were talking about, like, I'm so excited. I'm so excited for this defense, it's been a while since I've said that about a Rams defense. I'd been saying, like, just be the 16th best defense. And
yeah,
now I'm going into it with a bit more optimism that maybe they're, 14th or 12th or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to tell this early in preseason when you're not playing a lot of or any starters on both sides. I mean, even the Rams haven't played their like main starting defensive guys, but we see a little bit of the scheme. Obviously, it's going to be much more vanilla than what they're going to show on game days, but the intensity, like you mentioned, the hair on fire, the intangibles that aren't necessarily scheme specific or talent driven, that are just like lunch pail guys, right? That we've been talking about for a year. Like this is becoming a lunch pail type team, a Midwestern Steel City type team, not just the glitz and glam of LA, as we call it. So I think that is what we're both really, really excited for, and seeing the types of players that has added, seeing Chris Shula and his fired up approach and what he's brought. And, that was still a big question mark, because it's not been a regular season game yet, but certainly has been checking every box along the way. And I think that's all you can ask for at this point. And so that's what's exciting. Now, as we look to this Chargers game, here's what I'm really curious, Skinny, because last week the Chargers against the Seahawks started 4 of 5 of their starting offensive linemen. The only one that didn't start was Bradley Bozeman, their starting center. They started Rashawn Slater at left tackle, all the way down to Joe Alt, their 5th overall pick rookie, at right tackle. And so I'm curious, and I hope for the Rams' development and tape sake, the Chargers do that again, so we can really see this defensive line go up against starting quality offensive linemen. Because if they're able to do what they did last week against the Cowboys, against literally, if those same 4 guys start, 3 of those were first-round picks, with Slater, Zion Johnson, and Joe Alt. And Trey Pipkins was a 3rd-round pick who's now in year 5 and transitioned to guard from tackle. You're going up against 3 first-round picks, and if the Rams defensive line, then again, we won't see Kobie Turner, we won't probably see Jared Verse, we won't see Byron, we won't see all their actual starters, but if their backups can do some damage, just imagine when the ones, I mean, that's got to be really exciting. So what are you hoping for we see from the Chargers offensive line, and what will it mean if they really do show out again?
Well, we were talking about the Rams defense. The Chargers defense looked pretty phenomenal as well, going up against the Seahawks. We'll get to. But yeah, they kept all 4 of those starters in there for 2 series, and Joe Alton for the entirety of the first half. And it just shows like a very different kind of mentality that Jim Harbaugh is approaching this season with than what Sean McVay is approaching it with. And, I'm not going to say one is right or one is wrong. I mean, obviously you don't want guys going down with injuries in a game that does not matter at the end of the day. But it's going to provide a much more realistic version of what this defensive line is going to look like. And if that's just for 2 series, like, I'm going to be watching those two series pretty intently, specifically just to see these matchups. Because like you said, not a Rams starter is going to play, and key backups don't play either. And so, it really depends on just how aggressive Jim Harbaugh wants to get. And he's one of the most competitive people in the world, probably. I mean, he puts some of these other NFL coaches to shame. I remember he got, I think it was Jeff Schwartz. He patted a little too hard on the back after he beat him up one day in Detroit. And, they had words, and, Jim Harbaugh is cut from a different cloth. And the way he's approaching this preseason is, might be a bit of an eye opener for Sean McVay. But that said, the Chargers offense looked terrible. They didn't get a first down until 4 minutes left in the first half.
Yeah.
So even with they didn't play in really into their starting skill positions, but starting offensive line for sure. And they just could not get it done. So
yeah, I mean, Easton Stick made Stetson Bennett look like a Pro Bowler almost.
Yeah,
that's hard to do with 4 interceptions. Well, and they also played Max Duggan and Luis Perez. They did a triage of quarterbacks. So I'm curious what we'll see in this one. I assume much of the same. Even if Herbert was healthy, you would think he wouldn't play, but he's still, nursing his injury out of a walking boot now. We have heard, so not in the walking boot anymore, but he's still questionable for even week 1. I mean, that's an injury that just lingers forever. Same injury that Peyton Manning had back when the Broncos won the Super Bowl and kept him out for 8 weeks of the regular season. Even when he came back, he wasn't fully healthy. So those injuries are, not to be the downer for any Chargers fans tuning in randomly, but they linger. They don't just go away, in a 4-week period and you're good to go. So, we'll probably see, Easton Stick, Max Duggan, and Luis Perez, I'm sure all 3. And so this Rams, defense obviously did really well against Trey Lance and the very few snaps we saw from Cooper Rush last week. So similar style of play in terms of ability. When you look at Easton Stick and Trey Lance, both have, decent ability to escape the pocket. Very different. Trey Lance was 3rd overall pick. Easton Stick was a 7th round pick. But ironically, both went to North Dakota State, right? Trey Lance was the successor of Easton Stick at North Dakota State. So fun fact that probably everyone forgets.
And he preceded by Carson Wentz, wasn't he?
Carson Wentz, yeah.
Yeah. They had a nice little run there.
Yeah, nice little run of QBs, which is wild. How this defense, I think, look, I'll just be blunt. Like, seeing what the Chargers offense looked like last week and seeing how the Rams defense looked last week, like, this should be another under 10-point game for the Chargers. I think the Rams can hold them under 10 points, regardless how many starters play for the Chargers.
The curious thing about the Chargers is, I think we were talking about this ahead of, 8 new starters on offense, potentially 8 of 11. That's pretty incredible. And, they're tasked with replacing Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. And this is kind of a ragtag group of wide receivers where there's some interesting potential and some interesting traits on it. But, three rookies vying for positions. Quentin Johnston, who had a terrible rookie year, maybe one of the worst rookie years of any first-round pick, excluding maybe Ryan Leaf. And love Ryan Leaf. He always wants to come on the show when we're out at Super Bowl Radio Row, so can't say anything bad about that guy at all.
Yeah.
And the bad thing about having such terrible quarterback play was that they have no idea. They can't really assess any of those guys at wide receiver at this point. So it's all still a mystery. So and like you're saying, the Rams defense should shut these guys down again. Those outside those first 2 series, which will be interesting. I think they're going to get to the quarterback a lot.
Yeah. Who on, and you did an article on this, because before we jump over the offense, like, who on defense are you kind of most looking forward to, or you think has either the biggest opportunity or potentially can do the most harm or damage to their stock in terms of making the team or even just being like a fringe starter. So who are you kind of looking at on defense?
I mean, I'm looking straight at the edge room just because all of the sudden, after that first week, they've got guys that are looking really good. Nick Hampton played 21 snaps and got 5 pressures. That's incredible. That's a quarter every fourth snap he's getting to the quarterback.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a really intriguing room. They held on to 5 guys last year, but you add Jared Verse into that, and that kind of bumps everybody down. They also didn't play Brennan Jackson, and I don't know if that was like an injury thing or just because he's already solidified himself in there. So there's a lot of intriguing pass rushers that they're gonna get a interesting look at. O'Shawn Mathis, he is he competing for a spot? Zach Van Valkenburg, who led all Rams in pressures. He made the squad last year, but he's kind of on the outside looking in. So and Keir Thomas as well had himself a nice day. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of puzzle piece that room back together. And Michael Hoyt's always a question mark in terms of where they're going to have him play. They have him listed as an outside linebacker right now, which is a position he moved to once he dropped 60 pounds. He moved out of the interior of the defensive line. So I'm actually really curious how they're going to use him. He won't play in this game, but that's going to be a regular season question. So yeah, it's just amazing how quickly this room became really intriguing. Now I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that this is going to be one of the top edge rushing rooms, because currently they just don't have that proven guy, but that can change real quick.
Yeah. I mean, like we said kind of at the top, like I really do hope the Chargers play, Alt and Slater for at least 1 to 3 series, because if we can see the pride of Appalachian State, Nick Hampton, going up against Joe Alt or Rashawn Slater and still getting pressures, then it's like, all right, this kid's for real and has developed into the NFL mold from a smaller school in Appalachian State and gives you that great depth behind Jared Verse and Byron Young. If Zach Van Valkenburg, what a great name, out of the Pride of Iowa, can prove that he can lead the team in pressures, and it starts off against Joe Alt or Rashawn Slater, then it's not just a fluke of, backups against backups. It's like this guy's doing it against first-round talent and starting talent. So I really hope that the Chargers do play some of their starters on the offensive line, because I think that'll give us a real clear picture of that edge depth, as you're alluding to. Now, in the secondary, starters or not, the Chargers are just a very unknown commodity at receiver. Lad McConkey looks like he's going to be their number 1 guy, 2nd round pick this year, rookie. Looks like he's going to be the number 1 guy. DJ Shark, I know who they signed, has had a really good camp as well. They're really excited about him. Quentin Johnson, we've been hearing, has improved in camp, but we'll have to see that on the field before it's truly solidified. They got our guy B. Rice, Brendan Rice, as an undrafted or a 7th round rookie out of USC. Always rooting for him. We'll always root for him. We'll see him a lot. But I don't think there's anything we can learn about the secondary going up against this receiving group, because we're not going to see McConkey. He's hurt anyway. We're probably not going to see DJ Shark. Like, it's going to be their bottom end receivers, which are already probably more bottom tier in the NFL, no disrespect intended. So I don't think we'll learn a lot from our secondary. Now, if they get torched, that'll be telling, I think, but I don't think we'll get to that point. So I think this is more of a game to see what that front 7 really looks like against maybe starting offensive line getting some reps, and then against this rushing game that I'm sure we'll see employed, specifically because their offensive coordinator, Greg Roman, really leans into the running game regardless, unless they're really just want to see what they have in their backup quarterbacks and they just air it out a ton because they don't have a great room and they just need to do as much analysis as possible before going out and getting someone else.
Yeah, and to that point, they're not going to play Gus Edwards or J.K. Dobbins. They're kind of de facto dual threat backfield. They're both listed as the number 1 running back, which I love when teams do silly things like that. But not the point. But I did see that Lad McConkey and Josh Palmer are both going to be playing in week 2. So we'll get a chance to see Ladd McConkey going up against whoever's in the slot in this game, which could be interesting. But the quarterback's got to get the ball out of his hand. That's number one.
Yeah. So they are okay. I didn't see that yet. So they are going to be playing.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, Harbaugh really. I mean, there's no solidified starting receiver, so he kind of has to. I feel like.
Well, and that's kind of my thinking is, coming out of that last game, they said, we're not we didn't scheme up a lot of stuff, and I'm kind of looking at him going, maybe you should try to do that so you can get a sense of what you have on your roster in kind of a game like scenario. So
yeah, and I still like. Coaches all the time say like they don't like the preseason. They get way more value in these joint practices and yada yada yada. And I get that to an extent because they can do things that aren't seen by the world. Like they can test different schemes out, and yeah, the other team will see it, but it's not like they're on camera. So I get that, but like preseason is still a live game scenario. Like you go to the stadium, your walkthroughs feel like a normal game. Like you're in the locker room, you give your pregame speech, you have your halftime. To me, there's still value in that, in finding things. And so maybe it's just all coaches speak and they try to play it off like it's super like meaningless, which it is obviously in the score column. But I think there's so much value that either they're devaluing or just flat out kind of lying to us to downplay it, because that's like your first game scenario. And especially when you have an entire new staff, entire new scheme as the Chargers do.
A lot of rookies.
Yeah. It's like, you got to do some things to like see what you got.
Yeah. It's like Jordan Whittington. I mean, they put him out there and they found out that, he's a dude. Before we move on to talking about the offense, one of the big pieces of news is that Aubrey Pleasant is going to be playing head coach for this game. And Sean McVay is going to be in the booth more, or, like everybody loved it when he was doing the shtick with Mina Kimes and is it Andrew Whitworth out? Yeah, he was calling that. Yeah.
Or was it Aqib Talib?
I think
it was Whitworth. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was Whitworth.
Yeah.
Which, it's fun to see, but, I was kind of under the impression that Sean McVay was going to be sticking around for a bit longer than, is he getting the media bug again? And
already getting his reps in the booth, huh?
Yeah.
A little scary. But
how cool is it that Aubrey Pleasant gets to call this game?
Yeah.
In some form or fashion. I don't, maybe Mike LaFleur is going to run the offense, and Chris Shula will probably still run the defense, I imagine, calling the plays anyway.
Yeah.
But how cool is that?
It's so cool. We've said a lot that this organization, I think, really does a good job of creating opportunity for their own, even if it's not within their organization. Like they definitely spotlight their own people to get better opportunities, and they don't try to just hide them away to keep them, in their cupboard and make sure they're staying, as relevant as they can. They're like, hey, if you're a star in this field, even if it's not with us, if we don't have the opportunity, like we want you to get your opportunity somewhere. And I think they've done such a good job of that. McVay's always highlighted and spotlight that. And this is just another example of that. He did that obviously for Raheem Morris last year and whatnot, and has done it for others. And we've seen how many, everyone knows how many coaches get plucked from this Rams system. And for the most part, most of them all have fairly good success. I think some of them have really good success. And I think it's a lot of it has to do with the empowerment they receive from the top all the way down, and whatnot. So what I'm curious to see is McVay going to be in the booth? And have you heard this the entire game, or is it like a stretch? Like, is he literally like, I'm not even coming to the stadium with like coach's gear on. I'm just showing up, doing the media call, and I'm in the booth all 4 quarters. Have you heard that?
I actually haven't really looked into it all that closely. Yeah. I just saw that this is happening, and it's a preseason game, so it doesn't matter. It's just cool that they're doing it. So I'll look into that a little bit more. But I mean, we'll find out in like 24 hours. So
yeah, exactly. So
I mean, Pleasant was in the running for the DC job as well.
Mm-hmm.
So curious as to how long he's going to end up sticking around. Hopefully McVay, this isn't a harbinger of what's to come for McVay in the near future, that he's finally going to hang it up. And hopefully it's just a little
wet your whistle in preseason, and that's all. And he still has 5 to 10 years behind the bench. So I do always, not to stir the pot at all, and then we'll get to the offense. I do always wonder, so he made Chris Shula his DC instead of Pleasant, but then now giving Pleasant the opportunity to be the head coach on this game day. I'm just curious if it's I gave Chris Shula his opportunity at DC, so I want to give Pleasant this opportunity, or why it wouldn't be Chris Shula the one as the head coach or so.
Yeah, I mean he's still new in the role, so maybe he just wants him to get enough experience, in the DC's chair, so to speak, before handing off the reins. I mean,
who knows?
Why allow anybody to do it, really, other than just allowing some good experience for a great coach.
Or it could have even been too. Again, we don't know, so no one quote us. It could have even been maybe he asked Chris Shula and Chris Shula said, "No, I need to dial in being defensive coordinator, so I'm sticking with that." And then Aubrey Pleasant was like, "All right, well, let's let Aubrey do it then," because obviously he has tons of respect for all of them. So it's not like one guy's way above the other, especially at this level. It's all real relative. It's just it's minute little things. And I can't remember if I don't think it was Aubrey Pleasant that said this, but it was someone else. Maybe it was an anonymous person, basically said the things you don't know about the head coach are all the little minute things, like meeting with the refs beforehand, doing your media calls throughout the week that you have to do with the broadcasting partners. It's not necessarily the football aspect. None of that changes a ton. When you're with the guys in the meeting rooms, that's all pretty much the same. It's the CEO stuff, the admin crap that the head coach has to do, that if you're a coordinator, okay, I'm probably answering my question. If you're a coordinator, there's so much you have to do as a coordinator in calling that side of the football that you don't also want the job of the CEO or the head coach. And so that's why these play calling head coaches have so much responsibility on them. And when you see coaches get fired and interim coaches, a lot of times the interim coach is either a special teams coordinator or one of the position guys, just because they don't want to add more to the already coordinator job. So.
Yeah, well, and to tie it all into a nice little bow, Giff Smith, who is now with the Rams, was the interim head coach when after Brandon Staley got fired, who also was a Rams coach. Whoa,
we're just down the rabbit hole. Let's go to the offense.
Yeah, let's get out of this.
Yeah, but hey, shout out Giff Smith, because how good the defensive line looked last week. Let's see if they can replicate that, because a lot of talent, and Giff Smith should get a lot of credit for that with these young guys and seeing what he keeps doing, developing. So look at the offense now. So first, before we even get to the offense, Matthew Stafford, tight hammy, needs to rub that out or whatever. Concern you at all, or are they just being way overly precautious?
Both. I find it both concerning, and I think that they're being very cautious, which I think is the correct way to go at this time in the year. He's played a lot of football. He knows this offense really, really well, so I'm not concerned with that. He's not losing time. He's not losing time to build chemistry with receivers. This is Stetson Bennett's time. To shine. But also, soft tissue injuries, especially hamstrings, can be finicky, and they can go away and come back up. And Darius Williams we haven't heard much about Darius Williams. I don't know if he's practicing yet. I haven't seen that specifically that I remember. But he had a hamstring injury as well early on in training camp, and seems like he's missed a lot of time. So these things can be finicky. They can be hard to diagnose and fix. And so I'm glad they're handling with abundance of caution, but it's not a minor thing.
Yeah.
He's got to move around.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. It's not, again, I'm not concerned about it yet, just because we got a long ways to go still. Nothing severe. The guy's tough as nails, but to your point, these soft tissue injuries can pop up often throughout the season. They don't just go away. So tight hammy at his age, it could pop back up. Hopefully it's nothing that they got to worry about, and he just, chills out, watches some film, and is ready to go week 1. We'll obviously keep you posted on that. But for this game, first of all, I hope it's 4 quarters of Stetson Bennett again, because I think we need real evaluation. And we got some of that last week, some ups, a lot of downs, ended with an up. Now let's see how he can string together 4 more quarters. We know Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to play. I don't think we need to see anything from Dresser Wynn. Like him getting playing time would be more of a congratulations from the Rams. Like here's, you get a quarter of play in the NFL again. No disrespect, but I don't think there's anything we need to see out of Dresser Wynn. So they need true evaluation of Stetson Bennett. Obviously they have joint practices. They've seen him in training camp, but real live, like we keep saying, these are live game reps against real competition of guys scratching and clawing to make a roster. So you're going to do everything they can in order to win this game, even though it doesn't mean anything in terms of the wins and losses column. So let's start with that. Do you think we see Stetson Bennett for all 4 quarters? And how important do you think it is for him in his, not just future in the NFL, but future with the Rams?
Yeah, I think it's of the highest importance. It's probably the number one thing they need to come out of this preseason with is an understanding of where he stands right now and where he is with his development. So, we've never really pegged him as the future of the franchise, but they need some stability at this position as Stafford continues, as we all do, moving forward, getting older, and they haven't had the stability. They haven't had the guy back there that they trust to put in a must-win situation. John Wolford was kind of seen as that guy, but never really proved to be that guy. And I mean, they can keep rolling the dice, but they drafted him for a reason. And I think primarily the reason was, we can use this guy as a sufficient and competent backup behind Matthew Stafford. So they got to figure out, what they got in him. I've been saying it all offseason is, I understand why he took the year off last year. And I think that he did the right thing in doing so, but he's a year behind.
Yeah.
And he was an old rookie to begin with.
That's a perfect segue. That's what I was going to say. Like, he's a year behind. He turns 27 in October. So I know a lot of people.
Do you know how old Penei Sewell is?
Well, I was going to say Jared Goff is 29.
Yeah. There you go.
I don't know about Penei Sewell, but Jared Goff's 29.
I just came across Penei Sewell's age, and I was like, what? Not even
21?
24.
24.
He's been in the league since 2021.
That's true. Jeez, yeah. So he was barely 21 when he was drafted, I guess. That's crazy.
Yeah. But
so I mean, Jared Goff, 2 years older essentially than Stetson Bennett, and so that's not saying that he's too old to be a backup or anything. I'm not saying any of that, but you got to think about it. When he's due for his second contract, he'll be 29 for his second contract, not his third, his second. And so, do they know he's going to be the guy, not even the starter, but just a competent backup at that point? Because as we just said, Stafford's dealing with hamstring tightness. First 2 weeks of the season, no Jimmy Garoppolo, suspended. You cannot go into week 1 having any doubt that your backup can at least string together a couple drives. I'm not saying be a hero. I'm not saying be the next Tom Brady that comes in and supplants the starter and takes you onto a Super Bowl run in their rookie year, second year. But you've got to have some confidence, a semblance of confidence that your backup can run the offense and not turn the ball over 4 times. So that's what they need to see out of these next 2 games. And that's why I would play him every single snap of all 8 quarters so that you can go into that week 1 game and saying like, all right, you're our backup. If this hamstring is a bigger issue than we think it is, we're not guaranteed to start the season 0-2. Like we have a fighting chance to win these football games. It's hard. Backup quarterbacks. I mean, there's no guarantee. That's why they're backups. They're not starters. But you can tell the teams that have like better competent backups than others. And the Rams, for how good they've been at so many things, the backup quarterback position has not been one of them, which we've said many times. I'm sure people get sick of hearing it, but
yeah. One of our writers, Ian, he wrote a piece last year predicting how the Rams could end up facing the Lions in the playoffs at the beginning of the year. I think maybe even preseason.
That's right.
He nailed it.
That's right.
But this year he wrote a piece about how Dresser Wynn or Stetson Bennett, maybe it was Stetson Bennett, could be the starter in week 1. So hopefully his prediction powers are not.
You're right. And he
are
wrote
not
that.
as accurate.
He wrote that in like April.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
I mean, maybe he's got an inside track to something, but yeah, that's neither here nor there. I want to see Stetson Bennett. His play was up and down. I actually thought he put together a pretty good first half, 110 yards. He did throw the 2 interceptions in there as well, but came apart in the second half for sure. But he showed some poise. He showed some poise to come back and finish off that drive with a TD. And the big question is he going to be under a lot more pressure than he saw in his first outing? Maybe the Rams backup offensive line is just phenomenal, or maybe that those guys that the Cowboys were trotting out there weren't of the highest quality. And like we said, Harbaugh is going to be a gamer regardless of what he does, and he's got some studs even though Mack and Bosa aren't going to be playing. They got Tuli Pelotu, fight on USC guy right there. Tremont Morris Brash, who's kind of making a name for himself. But they put up 14 pressures against Seattle. So it's kind of inevitable that he's going to face a bit more pressures than the 5 that he faced against the Cowboys. Yeah.
And this Jesse Minter defense has definitely been one of the bright spots for Chargers throughout training camp. It's going to be a smash mouth defense. It's simple in terms of just guys being in the right place, not have to think too much, and kind of like what the Rams are doing, just with your hair on fire, fired up, running after the football and playing smash mouth football. So this is going to be a tough defense to go up against, as you alluded to, with those pressures. Only allowed 13 points last week. And so, it'll be interesting to see how this Rams offense bounces back and what we see from this receiving core, I think, which is my next question. Do you think we'll see Jordan Whittington at all? Do you think he's done enough where they're like, shut it down? We don't need to put any more tape on him. Like, he's good. He's on the roster. Or do you think they'll still, at this point, you kind of need some bodies. You can't not play anybody. But maybe he only plays, a few series. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he's already earned his spot. I think both he and Tyler Johnson probably won't play a ton. I think maybe the first 1 or 2 series, maybe the first quarter. And then it's going to be the Drake Stoops, Wigless show after that. And I mean, I want to see more of Jordan Whittington for sure, but I don't know if that'll come to pass. And Xavier Smith is another name to keep an eye out for. He might be their leading receiver this time around, if in fact those guys are resting. So I don't foresee that. But can we get Tutu Atwell? Can we get a Tutu Atwell sighting in this game?
Again, another name that who knows if he will or how much play, but in my opinion, I think he needs to. I mean, I think he needs to go out and prove something, because this is now proven to be a deep room. 4 months ago, it was 2 guys, and then, okay, who was really 3, 4, and 5? Now I feel like, okay, you got Demarcus Robinson, looks great. He's clearly wide receiver 3. Jordan Whittington has looked fantastic so far. Tyler Johnson has looked really good. So now you're fighting for 6. And is that Tutu? I'm not going to go into it a lot, because we smashed that button a lot last episode. But going up against this Chargers secondary that I think is going to be a formidable opponent. And it certainly, I don't think we won't see Derwin. I don't think we'll see Alohi Gilman. I wouldn't think we'll see Asante Samuel Jr. But they've got a lot of talent and some young rookies, I think, that are out to prove something. And so seeing this younger receiving core, even if it's a la Tutu Atwell, going up against this young secondary with the Chargers, I think we can get a lot out of it and see some guys that can maybe separate themselves and show that they have that gamer mentality and can be that wide receiver 6 or 7 if they do keep 7 and bring you actual value come regular season. And the other side of that now is what we see in the special teams game. Like, do we see Xavier Smith as a true returner? And does he get any opportunities to return? Is he basically slotted as, okay, cool, that's our return guy, plus he can do some receiving work? Or are they going to have someone that's like, okay, we have a return guy and that's it, they don't bring any value elsewhere? That's what you always need to find, that fine line. So curious to see what they do in that regard.
Well, now you're getting me all excited about special teams, man. Now you can't do that to me.
What a way to end the show. Skinny T fired up on special teams.
Yeah. So again, just thinking about the regular season, Sean McVay said he's not going to show any of his hand in terms of their strategy around the new kickoff rules. So that's unfortunate. But I understand why. Yeah, it's special teams, baby.
We'll see. But on that note, the Chargers have a really dynamic return guy in Darius Davis, who they drafted last year at TCU. And so the Rams will have opportunity to, at least, I think, on the kickoff and punt team, really utilize how they run their systems and defense systems in terms of not letting return guys. I mean, they scared us last week, right at the end of the game. And so Darius Davis,
34-yard return.
Yeah. Darius Davis is, I think he had a return touchdown in his first game as a rookie last year, right in the beginning of the season, returned one and lit everything on fire. So certainly can do it, has burning speed. So it'll give the Rams good opportunity in that regard, which they gave up quite a few bad returns last year to really train on that. So we probably won't see a lot in terms of the return game, but in the kick game, I guess you could say, we will see opportunity for them to show some. Because I think the Chargers they're kind of just going all out. And even though they said we didn't scheme anything on offense, I think they'll scheme stuff elsewhere.
Yeah, definitely. He's a gamer. Harbaugh's coming out firing.
Yeah. Should be fun, though. It's always fun when these two teams play. I like that they do it every preseason. I wish we talked about this, I want to say a year ago. I wish they would just make it a yearly game. I know they have their schedules where it's you play two divisions, then you have a two non-division that you just play based on strength of schedule, yada, yada. But one of those two should be Rams Chargers every year. I want this to be a more recognized rivalry, I guess.
Well, I wrote a whole article about just kind of a thought experiment of trying to recreate regional rivalries.
Yeah.
And obviously LA, but there was other ones that were close by, these teams that never play each other, like Miami and Tampa Bay. They play each other every 4 years. They should change that. And imagine it could, the year that they're supposed to play the AFC West, they would just play the Chargers twice, which would make it like this divisional thing, which would be freaking hot. And, there's going to be 18 games in a season shortly. So there's definitely a possibility that, let's make Skinny T's plan happen for regional rivalries in NFL.
Why not? Yeah, especially if they are adding an 18th game. I mean, I know Dodgers and Angels only play, that one series a year, but everyone loves it. It's a fun the Freeway series, right? Lakers and Clippers don't play a ton, but they play a good amount. I mean, they're in the same division, so they play quite a bit. That's always fun. Ducks and Kings is always fun when they play each other. And those are different because in the same division, obviously, both the NBA and NHL teams. But I mean, I don't think there's any reason why it can't be every year Rams Chargers. Why not? Why not? Well, just like Niners and Raiders. Well, not anymore. The Raiders aren't in the Bay, but that should have been one every year.
Yeah, I connected all 32 teams, 16 different regional rivalries. The pieces out there. It was a lot of fun to write, but the old AFC West rivalry, Seattle versus the Broncos.
Yeah. I think that was one of the first NFL games I went to. John Elway versus Warren Moon, Broncos Seahawks.
Nice.
Pretty sweet.
That's a good matchup. That's a great matchup.
Great matchup. Throwback. At old Mile High in Denver. So we'll wrap up with that. Good way to end. Who do you again, these score predictions mean nothing in preseason, but who are you taking in this one?
I'm gonna go Rams 13-12.
Same score. All right. I'll go Rams as well, but I'll go 14-10. Two tutties for the Rams. 14-10, and they hold them to that 10 points. So thank you all for hanging out with us. A little longer show, fun previewing these two teams. Should be a fun game. Lot to learn. Hopefully we'll get to see a lot of what we were hoping to see and get some more knowledge of some of these younger players and where they slot in terms of depth and value heading into week 3 of the preseason. So we'll be back on Monday with our kind of recap and breakdown of what went down. Hopefully a 14-10 Rams victory, as I predicted. But thank you all for hanging out. Everyone enjoy the game. Saturday, 4:05 kickoff, not Sunday. So a little different. Saturday, 4:05. It's on ABC, or just check your local listings. I'm sure it's anywhere you can find or NFL.
ABC? What?
I know.
They have NFL games this year?
Right? Weird.
It's all over the place. Amazon, we got ABC. Man,
weird. I mean, I think that might even just be the national broadcast. Maybe locally we watch on not ABC. I don't know, but you'll find it. Everyone will find it. So, but yeah, everyone enjoy. If you want to find us on Twitter, at RL Anderson LAFB, Skinny T, at Ryan Dowd LAFB, at LAFB Network is the main account. If you're on YouTube, Rams LAFB, please hit that like and subscribe. And obviously the website, LAFBnetwork.com, or on podcast platform, Rams Skinny is where you search anywhere you get your podcast. Skinny T, thank you as always, my friend. Thank you all for hanging out with us. Enjoy the game. Talk to you all in a few days.